Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I am Shogun. Thank you to Tech and Machina, our recorders, and to our live audience joining us on the Roundtable Discord server today. If you haven't yet, please do join us on Discord. You can find us through the conspiracy section of Discord or Google Roundtable Discord. You can also join our forum and website community. We're also on all social media, so find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. That being said, today we're going to talk about dimethyltryptamine, or N-DMT, N-dimethyltryptamine, which is a powerful psychedelic drug, usually smoked or vaporized, also can be ingested and also sometimes snorted, but usually smoked or taken as ayahuasca, which is the oral form. So I'm going to be speaking, first of all, with my dear friend and server head administrator, Machina. Machina, welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. And before I start, I need to make a statement. I am not promoting the use of any substance, whether legal or illegal. What you do with your choices is your responsibility, and I am not accountable for it. This is for educational and harm reduction purposes only. I don't own anything, and everything that has been said here has been done in a legal setting in a professional manner. Now that being said, let's talk about DMT. It's one of the coolest substances out there in terms of its effects. It's unique in the sense that you don't build up tolerance to it. It's unusually unique, so you can essentially get the same effect every time you do it, which is not common for psychedelics since most of them builds a lot of tolerance. It's also incredibly powerful in the sense that once you take it, you essentially leave this planet. You go to another reality. It's that intense. It is very short lasting. For some people, it's 10 minutes. Some people 15. For most people, it's actually 10 minutes though. And you're completely sober and clear-headed during the experience. You're not in any way, shape, or form disorientated at all. Actually, you're very, not only are you sober-minded, but you're focused and hyper-focused in a weird way, like your intuition has kicked in. It's amazing how crystal clear your mind gets when you're within that world or when you have inhaled or ingested that substance. And after it's done, there is no residual side effects of any sort that has, any negative effects whatsoever, other than, being amazed or shocked by what you see. It is simply that, a vision.
So, exactly right. Reminding that everything we say occurred either in Peru or in Minecraft. Yeah, exactly right. So the thing that's amazing about DMT is that relative to other psychedelics, most psychedelics, you process them orally and they have a lot of biological effects. So if you eat mushrooms, mescaline, to a lesser extent LSD, peyote, ibogaine root, there's a lot of like nausea that's possible, what we call gut rot, stomach upset, vomiting, purging, puking, pissing, shitting. That happens with ayahuasca, mescaline, even mushrooms, a lot of, body load. But DMT in the vaped or smoked form is just pure, and you're just fucking off. Like it's chemical in a way that doesn't hit your gut receptors. It just fucking grabs your third eye and punts it right to the moon. And that's really it. It just goes whoop, and there's just this fucking outrageous inrushing of like geometric patterns and like things like pyramids and fucking geometric shit. Actually, we'll post in the Roundtable recorded event text channel that goes with this. I'll just post a bunch of shit. It really cannot show you what it's like, but it will give you some idea. If you haven't ever smoked DMT or done DMT, these are not bad attempts to depict it. These are actually pretty good attempts. People try and make art to represent it, and it's hieroglyphics, it's rainbows, it's symbols, it's patterns, it's movements, it's vines and coils and starfish and coral reefs, it's architecture and machinery, rainbows, it's ships, aliens, mantises and spirits, gods, and it's wild, absolutely fucking wild. It's like zang. The only word for it is zang. Like, It's just my post is too many things. You know, I don't got to try it really. I mean, yeah, you don't have to try it. It's entirely up to you whether you do or not. But if you do, you're going to see something that there's just nothing else like it on the whole planet Earth. You're not going to find anything like it.
Yeah,
They call it
absolutely.
hyperspace, you know, hyperspace.
Yeah, absolutely. It is unique, but what makes it even more unique is how most people have similar experiences or see similar things, in that it shouldn't be like that. Yet a lot of people see the same exact entities and they interact with them, which, makes you question, why is that the case? If it is just a bunch of hallucinations, why do people see very, very similar and interesting things? Why is it also that people that go through to this realm, especially under ayahuasca, do get some sort of like they feel as if they got wisdom from another world, and they feel the communication was, positive, and, gave them information that they did not possess themselves at the moment. So there are people, at least there was one person that used to be here, that did DMT a while back. Anyways, that person, when they did it, for a spiritual experience, of course, under legal settings, they realized that they shouldn't be taking like a medicine or something like that. And, it helped them when they stopped. So, I mean, they became healthy. I mean, that specific person. So it does seem to give you access to knowledge that is not currently in your head, or if it is, it's locked, so in effect, it's not, available to you. So even if it is all in your head, it's locked. So it gives you access to it. And that's the amazing part. And the entities really, it could really be like your mind communicating with you. I mean, for all we know, when we do that all the time, when we dream, we can't communicate with entities, right? The characters in our dream, this same thing in many ways. Although I don't necessarily think that's the same case. It does seem quite outside rather than within. Or, yeah, it does seem outside rather than within in many ways. Or like within, but uh, not this world, within an alien world. And it does really feel like an alien world. There is an alien, very alien feeling to it. Very colorful. There's patterns and runes and colors and neon bright colors that form crazy geometrical shapes. And based on my experiences, they were never, ever static. There was no such thing as a static visual in that realm. It's always in motion, always, at least from what I remember. But the most important thing, though, is the messages you get from it, which is, I think, really the main purpose of doing it, really, because visuals, wow, they're amazing. But more importantly is what you can carry away from it. How will it positively impact your life? I mean, some people, they believe they see God. Some people turn their life for the better, and, they stop drugs and stuff actually after doing DMT, like hard drugs, because it's that profound of an experience. And I had a friend that, was really, really sick. Anyways, he somehow got his hand on some of it and he tried it. But unfortunately for him, it didn't work out. So I don't think it's a cure-all at all. And I'm not saying that it is. Obviously, it's not. But I would also like to point out that DMT on its own is not the whole picture. There's actually 4 compounds that are very important and necessary, I would say, to get the complete experience. And the 4 compounds are harmalas, essentially, which was I think it was harmine, harmaline, and tetrahydramine, or something of that nature. And the ratios also have to be very precise. I think it was like 2-1-1 ratio. I'm not sure. And yeah, when you have that with the DMT, the whole thing just changes entirely. You get an entire intuitive, introspective, emotional sense attached to it, and it becomes way more meaningful, more memorable, and you also go much, much deeper. But not just that, you have control, and it's hard to describe what I mean, but I'll give you an analogy. Imagine you were in a spaceship and someone opened the airlock or something, and you're blasted out. That's DMT. Just blasted into space with the airlock opening. Just rolling. Just going in space. But with Harmala, it's more like you're in a little mini spaceship, and you can move around. You got thrusters, so you have far more control, far more mastery over the situation, and you're also in a much more meditative state. So you will reach much higher depths in it that most people will not see. Also, one interesting thing is the all-seeing eye, which not only me, but a couple other people have come across while doing that. And it is very interesting how you can see it when you're in that realm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating. So I forgot to do an interview in the way that I'm supposed to do. So I'm now going to begin the interview. So Makina, tell us about the first time you experienced the spirit molecule. How did you come across it in Minecraft, and how did you use it, and what was that like?
So how I came across it was that I was on vacation, right, with my friend, and we both got it by essentially we just got it from a source. All right, I just gave it to us. And the first time I did it, I botched it. I didn't do it the right way. I only did one hit, and I didn't do the other ones. So I was like trapped between worlds. Kind of. It was weird, but not once. There wasn't a single moment in it that I was confused or scared or didn't know what was happening. In fact, I was so in control. So even when I was trapped, like not trapped, but like in between, I was so sober-minded and clear-headed that I was telling my friend to calm down. You know what I mean? Like I was saying, it's okay. Like that's how much clarity is in your head when you're in that mode. That you even think about others. And it's just Then after that, because it was an incomplete experience, I got obsessed. I was like, I gotta go all the way. But I didn't have any more. So I had to go get some more. And I did get some more. And the next time I actually blasted all the way. And there is no words to describe it. It really is like entering a portal initially. And then afterwards, it does feel like you enter a room of some sort where there's like entities that are it feels like you're in a building or a room of some sort. And there are people walking around as if it's like they're doing their job, employees in a building. Or spaceship, actually, more likely. And to me, it seems more just like a regular room, a corridor, a hallway, or something of that nature. But some people think it's like more of a spaceship, and I can understand why. The crisp awesomeness of the quality of what you see is also very amazing. It's quite crisp. It is unbelievably crisp. It's not hazy. It's not distorted. It's not weird or anything of that nature. It is crisper than crisp, of a super crisp, focused image. It is bright, colorful. There's no words to describe it really besides those. And in terms of what you do in that realm, well, for one, whenever there is communication of some sort with any entity, it's usually through thought and emotion, and I guess geometry to some extent, because the visuals are also, I believe, to some extent telling a story. But yeah, so there's three things: geometry, emotion, and thought. That's it in that realm. And time is a little bit weird, but based on my experience, it usually always feels shorter than even what it is. So some people say you get trapped in it for a year or something like that. That's not true, at least based on my experience. And I've gone there quite a few times because I was on vacation for a long time. I had to take advantage of that open window, that legal open window. So yeah, I tried a lot during that time, and yeah, there was nothing negative about it. However, I did have two trips that many people would consider negative or dark. Dark is better, not negative, but dark experiences. And well, first of all, the setting was horrible. The time was horrible. I also did it with Harmala, and I did actually a little bit too much Harmala. Harmala, by the way, is legal even in the United States. Uh, and it's actually incredibly powerful anti-depression drug, an antidepressive drug. Very powerful. It's really good. And it's very also healthy for your brain, actually. That substance is unique in how neuroprotective it is, neurogenerative it is, and not only that, I believe one of the substances, I forgot which one it was either tetrahydramine, harmine, or harmaline, but one of them, I believe, was one of like 100,000 substances that was tested, for diabetes or something, curing it, or not curing it, but affecting the beta cells. And apparently, one of those three was one of the substances that was picked out of the 100,000 substances that was tested that could actually regenerate the beta cells for a type 2 diabetes. I mean, it really is like a miracle thing. And actually, back then, the shamans, they called the vine the teacher, not the bark, where, the Mimos hostilus root bark. That wasn't the teacher. That's where DMT comes from. That was not the teacher. The teacher was the Harmala. And that's how important the Harmala is. But anyways, let me go back to my dark experience. So initially, I went to something equivalent to heaven. And then the second time I went back in under Harmala, I went to something I would say that was the equivalent of hell in many ways. And I saw a darkness that was very hungry. It was hungry and infinite. And it was constantly out of balance and replicating. It really is like if I could feel what cancer was like, or if there is a representation or symbolic manifestation of that dark energy in this world, I would say cancer is that manifestation. That's how it was. It was just a hungry, never-ending, mouth within mouth, dark, sucking thing. But I'm glad I saw it because, there's more than just light and happiness out there. There's, of course, darkness. There's evil in the world. There's all of these things. There is a balance. And that's why the best actual experiences when you have under it are the neutral experiences. Those are the ones where you're like at the center point. You're at the point of power. That's where the truth is, when you're in the neutral point. And those are usually the best and most powerful DMT experiences you'll ever have, is one that's very neutral. It will touch your soul or your mind, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, your mind in a way that's nothing else can.
All right. So beautifully said indeed. I've never yet had a dark experience on DMT, but I know that they do occur. I think the DMT is probably the most user-friendly psychedelic because, like, I've had 101 bad trips on mushrooms, like 101 bad trips. Fear and loathing is very real on mushrooms. But DMT is so crystal clear, it's so colorful, so clean. But I know that people do have bad times on it. So I don't know. I'd like to tell my story since we're doing the DMT event, but I don't have to tell it now. I've only had 2 full breakthroughs, right? So with DMT, there's a sub-breakthrough where you still trip balls, and then there's a full breakthrough when you completely go through the veil. You go to Narnia, you come out the other side. You're in another dimension entirely. That's a full breakthrough. I've only had 2 of those, and then I've had a whack of not full breakthroughs. And even that, like when you take a not full breakthrough, it's like, wah, like fucking rainbow centipedes exploding everywhere, swirling around. So it's already pretty crazy. But if you take enough to go through that, you literally go to another dimension, and it's like stable. Everything's like stable in that dimension. It's not just a bunch of shifting nonsense. It's like you're in another world, and the rules of that world are very solid. It's crazy. Yeah. But I don't know. Did you want to tell us one of your full experiences, and then maybe I'll tell one of mine?
I guess so. Yeah, sure. I can do one of my full Harmala experiences actually to some extent. If I remember, and it's hard to remember, but the beginning is almost always the same. It's going through a portal, like a gateway that's just in the center. Just go through it. Once you go through it, there's this like a chamfered cubey geometry. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very blocky and super cut, fine cut, like sharp. The colors are usually purple, purpley, neon purple, neon green, kind of like this bluish color. They do seem to be the primary colors actually, but like the subtractive ones. So, yellow. Actually, I don't really remember too much yellow, but yeah, yellow, cyan, or sorry, yellow, teal, and purple. Yeah, those are the negative colors, I believe. But anyways, it was like that, right, the whole time. And I go through, and I remember this like it was circular, if I remember correctly, and there was an eye in the center. This is when I saw the all-seeing eye, by the way. It was an eye, and it wasn't in a triangle per se, but it had the rays coming out of it. It was weird. And it was looking at me directly, and that was really interesting. Then what happened after that? It's really hard to remember, but there was some of these images of these lines within lines, this geometrical pattern, but it's 2D. There's a lot of 2D quality actually to it as well, even though it seems to be higher dimensional. There's actually a lot of 2D quality to it in many ways. So the lines were 2D. It's kind of like that, the one that's zooming in. But like I saw these Buddha-like creatures this is the one with the Harmala, one of the ones with Harmala I did, like a Buddha, and it was so peaceful and harmony. It was amazing, and I could feel it talking to me, but not with words, but like I could understand what it was thinking as it was thinking. So I guess it wasn't even in my own voice. It was just the understanding, so the voice is there, so it's like, you talk, you convert your thought to, sounds, and then ears, reconverts it back to thought. That's completely skipping the conversion process. Just super efficient thought. That's it. Thought. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff about points, the central point, seeking truth, neutrality. These are messages I kind of got to thank. And this was one that was really interesting. If you really want to thank people, and it's stuck to my head, is by taking their gift, and using it rather than just saying thanks. And then some thoughts came to my head, and I think I know why that specifically came to me, because there's a lot of times where people offer shit to you or to me, and I'm just like thanks, and I put it aside. I say thanks because I want to be polite, but actually I realize what the fuck I'm doing is one of the most disgusting things anybody could do by doing that, and I realized it. It was a very nasty thing to say thanks and then put something aside. It was so clear to me what an ugly act it was that I was doing. And there was another thing that became clear to me, and this was a message, and it was be good to one another. That was another clear message that I got that's always been in my mind since. What else? Shit. Sorry. What else? Oh yeah, let me talk about the visuals now. I remember going deeper and deeper, and there was no sense of body anymore. It was just visions coming in. And if you yawn, by the way, when you're in this trip, it's like stepping on the gas, on the spaceship. Like you're going hyper speed when you yawn. It just amplifies everything by 300%. So that's like, think of it like your eye is actually opening. That's when your eye act like if you had a third eye, and I do believe we do, and we do actually. But I'm just saying, like, if there was, anyways, that is really opening when you're yawning. That's the point where you see the truest of the truest vision. So DMT, Harmala, and yawning, those are like the three things. When you're under those three situations, you will see something I cannot describe, but it's absolute, you know. And also, as I was going deeper and deeper, I saw these geometric alchemy like images, you know, and I was getting the feeling that this was a form of contract that I was under, you know, and I didn't really understand what that meant. But I got the idea that this was a form of a contract, this geometric sigil kind of thing, which I don't know what that was. And I saw a couple, and it felt a little dark actually at that point. But I don't know, I felt a little uneasy when I was going past those. I don't really remember how I started coming off. Oh yeah, so let me talk about coming off. So when you're doing it with Harmala, coming off is very smooth. It's not at all like, you know, you're back and completely sober. It's more of like a slowly coming down. And at some point while you're coming down, there's usually a flash of darkness, just a little bit. And it's not that at all. It's just that you get an idea that there's a really powerful dark force there, and it reminds you of it. And then you're going down. And then even if you go further down, you start these crystal clear dreams or visuals. Not visuals, like dreams. Yeah, it's like real life. The quality is no longer geometric or anything like that. It's just like you close your eyes and you're seeing shit. And I actually multiple times saw doctors or a relatively futuristic world. I remember once a van that was it was like Earth, but it was a little bit futuristic. All the surfaces of the corners in the van were smooth. It was made out of this weird plasticky material. There were humans on it wearing lab coats. I was in the van, the back of the van. I mean, I remember seeing some of this stuff. I don't know what the fuck that means or meant, but those were some of the after visuals I had. And those were a little bit weird, to say the least. And after that, I just slept a little bit and woke up, and I felt more energetic, more healthy, and better than I ever had in my life.
Well, right now.
A little bit.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, too bad, and then carry on.
Yeah, it's a little bad right now. So let's just wait a little bit. I can go on a little further. I can talk about it a little more. So the cool thing about this, and it's not just the cool, but the weird thing actually about this is how did the natives figure out how to make this? How the hell did they figure that out? Because this isn't normal. It's actually very unusual because the combination is so perfect that and so unique, and that the chances of this being statistically, them just mixing shit is it is so improbable that you can cross it out. That's how improbable it is. It's like saying that a monkey, is typing, and eventually the infinite monkey, typing. Yeah, you get the works of Shakespeare. Yeah, sure, but it's so improbable that, in a realistic sense, you would just real life in a limited period of time, you would cross that off. Obviously, if you had infinite amount of time and they were doing an infinite number of permutations, then yes, eventually, yeah, you would get anything. However, in such a limited period of time, how did they know to extract the alkaloid and N-dimethyltryptamine from the Mimosa oxalis root bark, right? How did they know that? And how did they know that the vine contains the other alkaloids also the other alkaloids that inhibit the enzyme that breaks down DMT? And by the way, that is the only reason why DMT is active orally. Without the Harmala, it is impossible essentially, to get high from to get the effect of DMT orally. The reason is that, for one, the absorption rate is too slow. It is literally too slow for you to feel anything, because your body breaks down DMT actually incredibly fast, which is also why it's almost impossible to overdose on it, because your body will get rid of it so fast that it's unbelievable. Is like the moment it's in, it's got like 10 minutes without the Harmala. So yeah, it's I guess Shogun left. I think it's having technical issues. So where was I about the Harmala DMT? I don't know. I kind of lost my track of thought, honestly. I feel like I'm ranting. Is there anyone that wants to speak or ask questions? I don't like going on a monologue.
Yeah, like what do you think you see once you enter like that other dimension or that other plane of existence? Is it something spiritual, or is it something like Mother Earth, or
Honestly, I would say it is spiritual, it is technological, like a digitally feeling to it, and it is very alien. At the same time, it is incredibly familiar, which is also very interesting. Um, but I don't know what it is. I would say, if I would give an analogy, I would say Plato's cave, going out of the cave, all that they were seeing was the shadows. And then when they left, then one person left, and he saw the outside world. First, it was resistance, actually. He couldn't believe it, and it was harsh and all that stuff. But once he got used to it, he was like, wow, I was blind, and everything. Kind of is like that, really. It's like escaping the illusion for a little bit and going into the true blueprint of reality. It's like accessing the source code of existence. It's like plugging in to reality. It's crazy. Any other questions? I guess not. Well, it's one thing that sucks is that very few people have done it because it is illegal. But that's one thing I'm going to speak very openly about. I don't think it should be illegal. I cannot think of any rational argument for making that substance illegal. Not one. Obviously, we're talking about adults. Obviously, but there really isn't. It's bureaucracy mixed with stupidity, mixed with greed, mixed with corruption, and all of them combined into this really disgusting, shitty soup. And that is the reason why dimethyltryptamine, probably the most harmless drug I can think of, being a Schedule 1 substance. I mean, that is insane. It's insane. And just thinking about it, to think about the idea that because you're, doing a spiritual ritual, trying to reach, a state of, understanding or healing or whatever in your own home. And to think that that is something worthy of going behind bars for is so insane that just by us accepting it makes us insane. That's how insane it is. People should be really out, spreading the fucking message that it doesn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. Just on its face, there is no rational argument, no logical argument that could be made that would justify putting someone in jail for a spiritual experience in the comfort of their own home that's not affecting anyone, that lasts 10 minutes at most, and will most likely change your life for better for the rest of your life. And that can earn you a trip to federal butt rape prison, essentially, because the prison system is brilliant. I'm being sarcastic, of course. So we are living in a crazy world. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's probably if there is a conspiracy against psychedelics, I wouldn't be surprised, because this shit has potential to open people's minds to things that, and it's not just open their mind. It's not like, oh shit, I see something amazing and wow, my mind is now open. It's not that at all. It's more than that. It's like the part of your brain that the wisdom is in, like that the wise part, if there is, the wise personality in your head, is like that gets a boost and takes over your mind. Like it literally puts you in a wiser state. So, of course, if you have a lot of corruption, then I guess, and this is just a conspiracy theory, but this is a conspiracy theory server, but I guess it makes sense for powers that be to want to suppress a substance that is absolutely harmless. However, this substance does lead to profound understanding. And in a world where, people are being led like sheep, you don't want them, thinking out of the box, or you don't want them to be wise at all. Actually, you want a very dumb population, because that's the only way you can control them easily.
All right, absolutely, the big pharma and stuff. So, what are some of the pharmaceutical properties to ayahuasca or DMT?
Well, as I was mentioning earlier, it is impossible to overdose on DMT because it breaks down, and this is just pure DMT. It breaks down way too fast by the enzyme monoamine oxidase. And Harmala, which I don't know how they discovered the vine, is the substance that inhibits that enzyme, so it prevents the DMT from breaking down. But that's not all it does.
It's a combination of the two.
No, it's more than that. If you take Harmala on its own, you will trip. It is a mild psychedelic, but by mild, it's not that mild. If you take enough, your hands will trail. You will start seeing shit. So, and the Harmala on its own has a lot of, if I remember correctly, according to .gov studies that I don't really remember at the moment, but according to .gov studies that I went across, it has a lot of beneficial effects on your brain, actually. And of course, monoamine oxidase inhibitors are used as treatment for depression because it helps with that. So there's that. But unlike the pharmaceutical ones, this is a REMA, a reversible monoamine oxidase inhibitor. So it's way better for you in terms of lasting effects. And not just that, Harmala is legal and cheap as hell. So that's interesting. I guess pharmaceutical companies that are selling you antidepressant pills, makes sense for them to not want you to even know about Harmala, obviously. And as a person that has purchased a Harmala vape legally, obviously because it is legal, I can tell you how powerful the mood boosting effects of it are. Like, it just boosts your mood like crazy. It's one of the most amazing things ever. And it's healthy. So there's just, it really is kind of like a miracle thing. I don't know. It is out of this world for sure.
So does it also helps with addictions with other drugs as well, right?
For many people it has. Even for me recently, I had a profound experience at some point ago, when I was there. And I lowered my usage of marijuana, obviously, after that, because I realized that I was doing it way too much. But not just that, something changed in my mind. I used to get shit-faced when I smoked. Now I don't. I'm clear-headed. So I really do believe that it has a powerful positive impact on your brain, neurologically, a permanent positive impact. When I was going through it, it's like your brain is firing rapidly. And I don't know if it's like rewriting itself a little bit or not while it's doing that. But from what I remember, the brain does actually rewrite itself with every single thought to some extent. So if that is the case, then with a massive firing of neural, activity, it is very likely that it does in fact rewrite your brain to some extent in a more positive direction, more efficient direction. And I can also say that from my own personal experience, every time I went through the gates and I came back out, my life improved for the better. I was in a very dark place before I went there, and I came out with appreciation for life again. I went back to college. I went to college. I got a car. I got my life together a little bit, and I'm not saying it was directly because of it, but it was after it, and beforehand, it was in a very dark place. Now, the circumstances, came to place in a very weird way, but that's also another thing. It really is like you've hacked into the matrix, and the world does really seem like a dream after that. Weird shit just happens. I don't know.
Shogun's not back yet.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that has any questions?
Well, I heard they were using it to help people that have opiate addictions, right? How it resets the serotonin receptors, and it resets the opioid receptors in your brain.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if it actually does that, for sure. And even if it didn't physically affect it, and I do believe it does actually, but even if it didn't, the spiritual impact that it has on you is so profound. It's like, imagine here. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you were driving really fast, and you were about to hit someone, but you didn't, and you stopped immediately before you hit them, and it was like an instant death if you didn't do just that right thing. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't turn exactly the right direction or something, they would have been dead. And immediately after that, the moment like of realization that, oh fuck, you know what I mean? What the fuck am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? That kind of feeling that led me to this position. It is kind of like that, but like times a billion. So it is so profound that people do make life-changing decisions immediately afterwards. So even if it didn't have those resetting of the serotonin and opioid receptors, it would still be that profound that I would say it would be very likely that people would make positive directions. But I have to say, I had a friend that did it and didn't really change. Like their life still went downhill. So it's not a cure-all. Their life went downhill because of their own mistakes, though not because of the thing. I'm just saying that it didn't help them. They were already going downhill, and this didn't stop them. I thought it might have been able to, but it just didn't, and I was kind of sad. I don't know. Sometimes people are so medicated by pharmaceutical pills that they're no longer themselves, and maybe that's why it didn't work so well for him. Because his kitchen, right, looks like a fucking pharmacy. Like the cabinet, it's just bad. It's bad. Tons of benzos and shit like that. He's popping them like candy. He doesn't even fucking stick to the prescription. He just pops one when he feels like it. So knowing that, I wouldn't be surprised he didn't get the full experience. But to be fair, he didn't even go with Harmala. So going with Harmala is a whole other beast. And if you really want to get the spiritual shock, you got to go with Harmala. That's the only way.
That's probably what I'd say it is. It is a spiritual shock.
Oh, yeah. You get electrified. You get purified. It's like getting baptized again or born again. It really is like being born again or baptized. It's like it's, it's like you go through another gate and come back. There's a difference. It's just, I don't know. It's beyond. It really is beyond.
I've heard Graham Hancock talk about it lots, especially on the Joe Rogan show, but we all know he's a big advocate as well.
Yes, Ezekiel. DMT does give you a spiritual shock. It gives you a powerful spiritual shock in a good way. And it's amazing. Also, use the other chat.
Or you could look at it as a spiritual kick in the ass, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's this thing also, like there is a certainty when you go in that not only is life after death certain, and you get that certainty. It's really weird because you understand that consciousness isn't bound at all. Actually, it's quite the other way around. You can say this reality is bound to consciousness, or kind of. It's weird, but you understand the continuity, and you understand that continuity can never end, no matter what. It just can't. Maybe it'll change, maybe it'll dim, but it'll never end. It just cannot by nature because it exists. What exists cannot not exist. It just exists. So it will be forever and ever. Actually, time is a concept that's very human in many ways because it gives us the idea that there is temporariness. There isn't. That is kind of like an illusion in like a picture book kind of thing. There is permanence in everything. Actually, everything is permanence in a weird way. And most importantly, you are permanent. And I remember during one of my deep trips, I was just repeating this like a couple times. I am, and then I said, I think I am that I am. Repeatedly with so much vigor, I was saying that I couldn't believe myself. When I had recorded it, by the way, couldn't believe myself. It was embarrassing, obviously, but still, it was. Of course, I remembered it, but I just couldn't believe with such passion I was saying I am, like it was the ultimate truth. But I guess it is some form of an ultimate truth that I was so passionate about. Just this simple phrase, I am. I don't know. That was very interesting. One thing though, that also this substance does to you is, like, let's just say you have dishes and you've been avoiding that for weeks or a week or whatever. You do this, you'll go fucking do your dishes afterwards. It's like the exact opposite of the other drugs. You know what I mean? That makes you lazier. You don't clean your rooms because you're doing it. This is the reverse. First thing you'll do is do your dishes afterwards. You're like, oh shit, I haven't talked to this person in my life for this long. What the fuck have I been doing? This person means this much to me. I don't want to end this relationship. What the fuck have I been thinking? This is family. What the hell? It slaps you in your head in all directions, So it is really, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think I've said everything at this point, and unfortunately, I don't think Shogun can join us. It seems like his technical issues.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had connection problem. I apologize. I am here.
I think you were going to get into one of your trips, Shogun.
Yeah, if that's all right. So I had some DMT a number of times. I went down to my basement. I laid down a sleeping roll. I set up a little altar. I lit a candle. I had my little Ganesh statue by myself, and I smoked the DMT, and I hit it. And then when you hit it, there's like an onrushing of like pyramids, coils, machinery, hieroglyphics, and it kind of explodes at you. And then there's like you take another hit and you hold that, and then it's like wah, and you take another hit and you go wah, and then you go through this kind of like onrushing of pyramids and machines and shit. And I literally found myself on a space station. It was like a science fiction type space station, like a high tech establishment in space. And there was like a hallway, and there was a viewport or like a window at the end of the hallway, and I could see planets and stars and things outside the viewport, like outer space. And there was like a terminal. It was like a mailbox type thing. Like it was like a human height rectangular thing built into the ground, but it was like a robot, and it could move along tracks. And so it like whipped around, was like, "What the fuck are you? What are you doing here?" And it was like, "Woo!" And like came over towards me. And then it like scanned me and was like, "Holy shit, you're here. Okay, come this way very quick." And it like led me in a certain direction very quickly. And it was like, "You need to go in here right now." And I was like, "Okay." So I went in there, and it was like a laboratory. It was like a high-tech science lab, and it was all full of like robot arms and robot appendages, but they were all controlled by like this central terminal thing. And the central terminal thing was like being, but it was also the room itself and a machine. So it was like the whole room was one machine being, but in the center of the room was like a terminal thing with like a face of sorts. And then it had all these arms, but the arms were like the room itself. And then there was like a table, and it like laid me down on the table and was like, "You need to be here." And it was literally like the first thing scanned me, and it was like, "Holy shit, we don't know how you got here or why, but now you're here. So we need to very quickly process you because you won't be here very long. So come quickly this way." And it was like, this way, laid me down. And they gave me some kind of like anesthetic thing so that I wouldn't feel any fear. Because I remember thinking, this should be scary, but it's not. And they had like completely taken away my fear. And then it just ran this like hyper fast, like freakishly fast series of tests on me. And I was like, scan, 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 scan. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, I want to try and talk to this thing. So I tried like chanting mantras, and I tried saying, "I love it." And every time I tried to talk to it, it would like pull its head back, like turn its head to the side, like pull its arms back, like, "What the fuck is it doing? Why is it talking?" And then as soon as I stopped talking, it'd be like, "Okay, it stopped, go back to doing the test." So I realized it didn't want me to do anything. It just wanted me to lay there like a hamster. And it was just like, and it was just like scanning me for information. And it was literally just like, "We don't know how the hell you got here, but you're here. We're going to process you for information as quickly as possible." And then literally I just like got these tests run at me. But the thing that was doing it was like this machine made of rainbows. And it was just like this high-tech rainbow machine scientist doctor that was just like, "We don't know how the fuck you found your way here, but you were here for a short period of time, and we will process you for all your information." And then they just like ran these scans. And then, yeah, I woke up after, and my eyes like were fully open, and all the shit faded away. And I was like, holy shit, my eyes were wide open this whole time. But all I was seeing was this like alien space station, this alien doctor. And then my basement came back into sight. And then I went and called my friend. I was like, "Bro, I made contact." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "No, for real. They're like aliens or some shit." He's like, "What?" And then I had him come over, and he did the same shit in the same basement, same DMT, and he had like a very similar experience of these like alien pyramids and like robot surgeons who did surgery on him that were all like machines that were attached to the pyramids. Very similar to what I experienced. But yeah, very, very strange. And the very strong impression is like it's technology, they're beings, they have their own thing going on. And when you pop in there, they're just like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And you're like, "I don't know, man. I just took some drugs." And like, "Well, whatever. Strap them down. Like, we'll figure some shit out." And I swear to God, it was like I just like popped into the middle of their world, and they're like, "Whoa, an intruder on the ship. Like, test him." And then that was it. I just got tested until I came back to this world. That was my experience. And I've heard that's very unusual, actually, for DMT. But that was what I experienced.
Yeah.
Well, was this after your situation at the hospital?
No, it was before.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, the interactions with the entities were almost always very, at least the ones that were standing, always minimal in the sense that it was peripheral and in a weird way. Like they were just looking sideways. You know what I mean? Like just they're passing by, but no direct like hardcore interaction of any kind. It was strange for sure. But the spaceship thing, yeah, no, I think I can understand that. And uh I don't think it's that unusual. I mean, let's put it this way. The DMT realm it's a lot more than just one particular experience. There are a couple of specific types of experience. So if it's a gateway, there are coordinates, I guess, you can enter, you know what I mean, that you go to. One of them could be the spaceship or the, the hallway or whatever. But I mean, there are other ones out there. There's a couple ones with the gesture, the jester, sorry. The jester, he comes around and he fucks around with you and shit. That's a weird one. Some people see a Cheshire cat. The runes are actually quite an interesting thing because I also saw quite a lot of runes and it's weird. It looks like hieroglyphs kind of thing. Unusual because it's a language, a written language. Why would there be a written language that's alien to you in your quote unquote hallucinations? It's a little weird to say the very least. Yeah, it really is a mystery, and I wish it was not illegal so people could actually pursue this in a scientific manner.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing to be said is I've done it two different ways. I've smoked DMT and I've taken ayahuasca. And ayahuasca is the herbal brew concocted in the jungle, and there's shamans and songs, icaros and rattles and rose water and this whole ritual. And then there's DMT where you just smoke it. And then there's what Mech in Minecraft has done where you combine it with an MAOI, and then it's pharmahuasca. There's all these different things. The only thing I'll say is there was one other time when I had a full breakthrough. I met up with my friend who I used to do mushrooms and smoke weed with when I was young, and I hadn't seen him for years. And we smoked DMT together. And basically what happened is like I poked my head through this portal into this other dimension. And what I saw was like a party. And everyone at the party was a spirit, not like a person, but a spirit. And so in the same way that we might change like our clothes or our makeup or whatever, they could change their whole appearance. They could change their size, their shape, their color, make more limbs, make less limbs, so they could express themselves the way we express ourselves through dancing, through shape changing themselves. So it was like this party where everyone at the party was a spirit, and every spirit had complete control over their form, and their form could express their feelings. So you're literally watching people dance, but by dancing they can change their shape, their size, their color, and everything. And it was incredible. And you just realize like this is a party that's going on. Like at a certain level, there's like people or spirits or whatever they are that are just like dancing and having a good time in some kind of heaven. Like all kinds of shit is going on, right? Because like you could have earned your way into that somehow or be that somehow. And we're here working at Walmart or whatever, and then these other beings are fucking dancing in paradise. I mean, and then there's hell probably too. But yeah, DMT, you see this shit. And I've been in this shit in dreams as well. Like, I really believe there are spiritual dimensions, and like, we're only temporarily experiencing this physical life on Earth. Like, when you dream, when you lucid dream, when you trip, you go to other places. And like, when you die, you'll go to another place for sure. Unless you orchestrated yourself in such a way that you're not capable of processing your own existence after death, and then you'll probably just like shred yourself like a piece of paper, putting itself in a shredder because like I do not understand my future, and you like grind yourself down. But if you're just a spiritual being, I mean, this life is just a small little step of this thing. It's like a layer. It's a layer of illusion you're stuck in right now. That's all it is.
I have belief that it's more of a form of virtual reality rendering in a period of consciousness that you experience.
Well, everything's virtual reality, basically. The only steady state is your own consciousness, and then whatever form
as you
or format.
As you recall,
Right.
the dream state or the wavelengths that the brains were being experienced are similar to DMT in a dream state, right? So
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like I've found myself in heaven, right? Like this wasn't even DMT; it was a dream, quote unquote. But I knew I was in heaven, right? And it was like all the people there were like in heaven, and like it's a good fucking time. It's a good time, and I was there, right? I was actually there, so I can be there again. You could be there someday. People are there right now. We're just not there right now, but it's going on. It's just like right now you could be a Burning Man, or you could be in Detroit, or you could be in the Congo, or you could be in the suburbs. But somebody's in Burning Man tripping on acid, fucking 3 hot chicks at the same time. That's happening right now. You're just not that guy. But like that's going on right now. And just because you work at Walmart or you're in this world and you're not flying around in outer space doesn't mean somebody's not flying around in outer space. I guarantee you, somebody's flying around in outer space right now. Somebody's fucking 3 girls at Burning Man. Somebody's tripping on ketamine. Somebody's in a UFO. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. So, if you can.
well, I mean, you kind of know my theory on it. Do you want it for the recording or just to hear it?
Yeah, go.
Well, I think that when you're under the influence, so DMT, when the sun goes down, the light change within your eyes makes your cones of your eyes and everything do like a type of retraction, and that sends a signal to your pineal gland, and the pineal gland is responsible for a couple of things. It releases melatonin. It also talks to your hypothalamus and your visual cortex and some other stuff. But the melatonin itself, what it does in the brain is it slows down electrical signals in the brain. So when you're in a sleep dream state, your brain is heavily flooded with this neurotransmitter melatonin when DMT is introduced. And this is where you see those dream states for REM sleep. When you induce this synthetically, like through a drug, for example, when you're in a waking state, this is where we get this dream phase state, because it puts you in an alpha brainwave state. The chemical itself binds to the receptors in the brain that are responsible for a large number of neurotransmitters, and that's why you get neurogenesis, because there's blood flow and everything's firing off. While you're in this alpha brainwave state, your brain is as far as I'm concerned, easier to be read by these beings' technology that is interacting with you. So that's why they choose at these times to kind of jump in and play. And you're probably already being observed, because I have a belief they follow these users. And why you didn't report it as more common with most people is I think they follow specific people in the groups and the drugs and the users through their methodology, so that they know where these drugs are being taken and when. And so they can come in and play and experiment around. I believe that they're just one of the many races on Earth, and they use this technology to interact with you in a virtual reality setting. They have the ability of not only projecting light in holographic form, but they can do it to your brain while you're in a tripping state, to your quote third eye or whatever you want to call it. But when you're under the influence of these, you're dumping neurotransmitters. Like, you ever see those people's eyes, how they're so wide open? So when it's that open, you're able to see an increased wavelength of light. Think like a cat or something like that. You're seeing different frequencies that you can't normally see. And what happens when you're doing that is your visual cortex goes, what the fuck? There's so much more light. I don't really have a link to this kind of sensation and this wavelength and all this energy and things like that. So it kind of fucks with it. But it also gives these beings the ability over your eyes to project in light a lot brighter. Because these holograms aren't viewable in daytime. They project in this virtual reality technology during the night. And I believe that's why Area 51 is known as Dreamland, because the technology they have is light fucking magic, as the Air Force calls it. And they have dream manipulation altering technologies, and they can do it in the waking state while under the influence of these chemicals.
Indeed. Well, we need to get into the trust DMT.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like, hey, I've done plenty of acid to know it, but when you've experienced these psychedelic realms with these beings too, I'm not saying that it's going to be that I'll experience the same. It might be a different type of trip, but I still understand the psychedelic world, and I've done a good amount of LSD and mushrooms too. So I'm not saying it's the same thing, obviously. The reason why you mentioned the MAOI thing because the brain has a natural ability to cleave it out, like. The reason for Alzheimer's is the buildup of plaque because the amylase is not being able to cleave it and stuff like that. So the brain has a natural way of cleaning this out with DMT, and that these MAOIs would affect. So people that are on a lot of SSRIs, for example, like Effexor and other drugs like that, won't see effects from these psychedelics as intense or nearly as intense, and you might even have some side effects as a result. So that's one thing to watch out for. And this is cumulative because if you take it, for example, if you don't let it clean out your brain of the medication that you've been on, you're not really gonna see because it's messing with the same receptors and similar receptors. So people that are on antidepressants will typically have a altered state of consciousness or an altered trip as a result of the chemical imbalance in their head with the medication they're on.
I would like to jump in here because I have a friend that was under a lot of medication, including Klonopin and many other horrific medications that I don't even know the name of, SSRIs, everything, antipsychotics, literally like a pharmacy. And he was also tripping on, cough. And he still did DMT. And guess what? He had a brilliant experience. He saw like Mother Nature smile on his face. It was a spiritual experience for him. He loved it. He was happy. And he went to sleep afterwards like an old person. And keep in mind, beforehand, he was being manic and crazy.
Well, I'm not saying you can't because of those drugs. I'm just saying if you want to have the complete experience, like it will make a drastic effect on how your brain is able to clean out and the receptors it's binding to.
I'm just saying, like, you don't have to really worry. As far as I know, again, I'm not a doctor, so take this with a giant grain of salt. But based on what I've seen, DMT is actually unusually safe when it comes to it being taken with other substances. Actually, it's unusual.
Yeah, no, that's true
way.
of DMT. But then for ayahuasca, it's the opposite, right? If you want to do ayahuasca, you have to be very clean. And if you're taking anything else, you'll die, right? If you're taking antidepressants, you'll die. Lithium, you'll die. Cocaine, you'll die. MDMA, you'll die. So if you mix anything with ayahuasca, you'll die. But with DMT, yeah, you can combine it with just about anything. I've smoked DMT on MDMA,
Well, that's because the MAOIs affect your blood and your heart and the receptors that are involved in regulating blood pressure and things like that. And that's what the MAOIs affect. But it also has an effect similar to how histamines are in the brain on the cleaning out phase of what's going on in your brain from these chemicals. I think they're bioavailable in the brain too, so they just like become something benign with whatever's whatever's in the synaptic cloud.
It's kind of weird because ayahuasca contains these MAOIs that magnify the effect of whatever's in your brain. So if you have like a Prozac in your brain that's creating serotonin, the MAOI will prevent the serotonin from breaking down. It'll last longer. It'll build up to a deadly level. You get serotonin syndrome, start shaking, start puking, you'll die. And the same goes for cocaine, MDMA. Like if you're on MDMA and someone's like, hey, you're on MDMA, you want to do some ayahuasca? And you're like, yeah, man, that'd be great. I mean, you're dead, man. You're dead. You have to be clean for ayahuasca. But with DMT, at least without the MAOI, you can smoke that shit on anything. You can be fucked up on ketamine, opiates, alcohol. It doesn't matter. You can be on anything. You can do DMT. You'll be fine. But if you mix the MAOI in there, then it's a dicey situation. But the ayahuasca in particular is very unforgiving. So that's why I was actually sad when I thought I had to take this bipolar meds, lithium, for life. I was like, I can never do ayahuasca again. But fortunately, I got off all my meds and I'm clean. I just smoke weed and on whatever. So I can go back to doing ayahuasca. And I will, because ayahuasca is amazing. And I'm trying to tell Mick to try this as well, because as great as pharmahuasca would be, and probably it's better, there's definitely something about the rainforest tribal beverage. You got to do it. And you're supposed to do it actually in the rainforest, which I've never done.
They actually give the babies that stuff. They give like the shamans would give the babies as an opener into their new lives.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
And there's also something called Santo Daime, which is really fascinating. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Santo Daime is Catholic Christianity mixed with ayahuasca church. So they go to Catholic church and they take ayahuasca instead of communion, and then they sing hymns and they do the whole Catholic thing, but they're tripping on ayahuasca. So for a guy like me, that would be very, very profound. And that sounds really cool. And that's like totally alternative to the traditional tradition that I'm part of with Tankiri Hummingbird House. It's like Peruvian shamanism from the rainforest, but then Santo Daime is like Catholic spirituality, Christian spirituality fused with ayahuasca. Either one is very interesting.
I actually did that kind of. My most recent experience, I was listening to Gregorian chants, and then I watched while I was in the trip, kind of like this documentary thing on Jesus Christ. It's a series. But yeah, it was incredibly profound for sure. It will make you understand the power of that truly, because there is a very powerful truth in the Bible. I don't mean I'm not talking about literally, but there is literally there is a powerful truth to it, that yes, but I mean, don't take the Bible like absolutely literally, obviously, and it's a combination of books. You got to put all of that together, but I'm talking about specifically the words that Christ was speaking. Couple ones while I was in that incredible spiritual state that like brought tears to my eyes was give freely unto others as you have freely received, or give freely as you have freely received, or something like that. And that just blew my mind in a weird way, because I realized like most of the things in my life, really a lot of it's just coming to me. I'm receiving a lot of stuff for free. You know what I mean? Like just so much shit that comes towards me. And I should, of course, at the same time be freely giving to others. It's important to give without wanting something in return. I think it's a very just nasty thing, that mentality. Not that trading is bad, but giving solely because you want something in return is a dark thing.
So Matthew 10 verse 8, it says, "Freely you have received, freely give." Yeah. Give as freely as you've received. You receive without paying, give without pay. Freely you have received, freely give. Yeah, exactly. Everything in your life, right, is from God. Like your parents, the womb you were raised in, the house you were born in, the food you were given, the milk, everything is just given to you. So be an instrument of grace also to other beings. You receive grace, be an instrument of grace.
Exactly.
That's why I have this homeless person in my house, as I have a shower, use my bathroom. I know you've been on the streets, have a shower, leave your clothes here, I'll wash them for you, come back, get them later. Like, I'm not saying I do this all the time, but I do this, right? And when people say, well, you're a Christian, yeah, I am, because I believe there's a spiritual significance to benevolence, right? Benevolence, like, here, I'll help you, brother. Like, yes, it doesn't matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that DMT actually will make you understand, is that benevolence in a very powerful way too. And one way I could put it is, not only will it make you see benevolence and understand the importance of it in many ways, and it's not so much even understanding the importance of it, because in the DMT realm, the highest point is really, from my at least experience, was the neutral point. But benevolence is something that I understood is important to me. Like it's part of who you are. So stick to it and don't deny it. Don't go against it. I mean, there are a lot of times where I'm doing something bad, like I'm hurting someone, like in an argument or anything, And I actually do feel pain, as I'm doing that. And I realize these are very unhealthy and disgusting things that people do. And I even do it sometimes, even, like afterwards, but I realize how fucked it is. And this idea of being good to one another and helping each other and benevolence is highly amplified in the DMT realm, which is why, again, I consider it to really be truly a holy, holy thing, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I really connect to the Christian thing, right? Like they say we are the body of Christ. And it's like Christ is this enlightened fucking concept. And all of us who align with that concept are like cells in that body. And when we're brothers in Christ, we take care of each other and help each other, even onto being burned at the stake by Constantine in the Roman Colosseums, or crucified like Christ himself. It's like this crazy benevolent, crazy wisdom thing. And even magic comes of it, right? All these miracles, shit like that happens, man. I've experienced miracles like that, man. So I this is totally separate from the DMT thing, but I am a Christian who does not believe in the Bible, but I believe that the Gospels shine through the Bible. But Christ was like he was Neo from the Matrix. Like he figured shit out in a way that he could actually circumvent the laws of nature, right? Faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Neo stopped the bullets. Like the Matrix trilogy was based on Christ, obviously. Neo is the one, like he is the chosen one, like it's the Messiah. That's what this is.
I'm sorry. There was a line by Agent Smith too in the third, I believe it was, where he says, "I am inevitable," just like in Thanos.
There was also a line that Jesus spoke, and it was something like this. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but I believe I have the basic gist of it. And it's something like, if you help the poor, you're helping me. If you give like water to the thirsty, you're giving water to me, or something like that.
As you have done to the least of these, so you have done unto me.
Yep, that's the one. That was another one of those that profoundly like brought tears to my eyes. While I was in this ayahuasca like experience, it was actually from a changa, and the difference is that everything is with vape. So it's just gas. No ingestion of any sort. Durations is a lot lower. There's a lot more control and intensity and control because it's gas, with buttons, whatever the hell you want, you get it. It's like futuristic in many ways. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry. But
Gandhi is quoted as saying, "A nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members or its poor." As it were.
Yeah, as you have done unto the least of these, so you have done unto me. If you give so much as a cup of water unto the least of these, you've given unto me. So the point is, you find a homeless person on the streets, you bring him in, you give him a glass of water, you've given that to Jesus Christ himself, right? Jesus Christ will, in the final accounting, account that glass of water you gave to that homeless person or that child or that animal as to Christ itself, right? Because the whole point is, the ghost in the machine, we are all the machine. The ghost is one ghost, right? So once you understand this, you serve another, you serve yourself. I am that I am. We are one, right? It's the same. There's a story I was told as a youth, right? There's a Buddhist monk and a Christian priest. They met, and in his language, he goes, "We are one, yes?" And he's, yes. And it's just a basic spiritual thing. There's only one Holy Ghost. So the example is like, say you have a line of candles. You can take one candle, and from one flame, you can light another candle. And with that candle, you can light another candle, another candle, another candle. You can ultimately light 100 candles, but it's really only one flame, just being spread from candle to candle, but it's only one flame, just being spread. That's the Holy Ghost. Like, it's like you're part of the body of Christ to the extent that you align outside of your own little self, and you understand you're just a candle holding a flame.
Anyways, this has been going on for an hour and 20 minutes. Do you think we should like wrap it up?
Yeah, sorry, we're off topic now. Point is, in Minecraft, if you get the chance and you're of sound mind, try DMT. Why not?
one last statement, and again, this is actually two statements I gotta make. One, again, after repeats, we are not promoting the use of any substance, whether legal or illegal. What you do with your choices is your responsibility, and we are not accountable for it. This podcast is for education and harm reduction purposes only. Okay. And we're doing it just to spread safety. And with that, I would like to point out that there is a source that's legally available on YouTube that also shows you one of the safest methods of, creating this, again, for educational purposes and harm reduction purposes only. So,
in Minecraft.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, never manufacture this yourself, like under any circumstances, no matter how easy it is. Don't do it.
Unless the
at all.
government tells you to.
Exactly. That's the only way. Right. That's it. All right.
Yeah, well, and my point as well is in Peru, you can go there and it's fully legal in Minecraft or out of Minecraft, and otherwise follow all ordinances and laws at all times. That being said, psychedelic experience is something that opens your mind to new dimensions of thought, and people who've had these experiences, this goes back to the most ancient rainforest tribes. This exists, it's older than language, right? People have been doing this shit since they were Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons. It's very, very ancient tradition.
If you want to know what the ETs told me about it, though, the mushrooms and themselves kind of broke their control over humans because they were able to see through whatever it is, whatever veil they were hiding over us.
Exactly. Unveiling, apocalypse, revelation, revealing. Let it happen. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Makina, special guest, head administrator extraordinaire, NSA, live audience, tech, recorders, everybody. Join us on the Roundtable Discord through the conspiracy section of Discord or Google Roundtable Discord server. Find us on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, GoFundMe, Patreon, and on the forum community. Come join us. And that being said, thanks everybody. And we'll do this again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Till then, let's go down the round table and discuss further.